Hey,
Awesome.
it's Jason with Kentucky Sustainable Living. I am with Chris Weatherman, the Angry American, and Chris is going to be at our festival March 23rd and 24th
Yeah.
in Bowling Green, Kentucky. And he was kind enough to sit down with me, and we're going to go over kind of what he's going to talk about at the festival, maybe some current event stuff if we don't get too crazy in the weeds with it. But Chris, I appreciate you being here and taking time to sit down and talk to me today. For the people that don't know, tell them who you are, tell them what makes you click, and everything about you that you
Oh,
want to disclose.
I'm just a hick that writes some books, man. I'm nobody special, really. I wrote my first book by accident. Never intended to, but here we are, 23 additional titles later, or 22 additional titles later. It's all I do full time now. I started out in learning primitive skills as a kid. Just because that's what we did. We ran around the woods, so we rubbed sticks together and banged rocks together. And YouTube wasn't a thing back then, but books were, and I did a lot of reading in the library on stuff like that,
Yeah,
and just learned it as a kid, and living in Florida, being prepared for hurricanes and that kind of thing. Just the two things kind of naturally blended together, and so now what I like to call modern survival is kind of what I do. We got all these great tools and stuff out there, and just having them and knowing how to use them and be ready when something happens, and you don't have to suffer like everybody else does. I learned that lesson several times going through hurricanes, watching my neighbors around me just miserable because the power's out for 2 to 3 weeks. And, and I'm in the house in the air conditioner looking out the window at them, just shaking my head. Like, you could have got ready. This isn't a surprise. You didn't wake up this morning and there was a hurricane, you know.
yeah.
So people want to
Oh, and
be
it does.
reactive, not proactive,
Yeah, and it does. It amazes me the number of people that are like, stuff happens all the time, and they're like, "Well, why did you not see this? It's happened 15 times since you lived
Mm-hmm.
here, and you're still not prepared for it." It's just that's lunacy, in my opinion.
Yeah. The day before a hurricane, you can't find a generator in the state of Florida.
Yeah,
The day after a hurricane, they're all being returned back to the stores, still in the box,
yeah,
and it's that kind of thinking of, well, I didn't need it this time, so I don't need it.
yeah,
That's just blows my mind. It truly is mind boggling that people think that way. Um, you know, you, Natural disasters occur. Stuff happens all the time. Just be ready for it. And like Alan Kay says, if you stay ready, you ain't got to get ready. So I like to just
yeah.
stay ready.
Oh yeah, and that's the same way here in Kentucky. Before they're calling for a snow and an ice storm, if they
Yeah.
say something, we might get a quarter inch of ice. You can go to Lowe's, Home Depot, Tractor Supply, and there ain't a generator there. And there's
Nope.
a sign. There's a sign out there that says "Will not return used generators."
Yeah. Yep. If they're
Yeah,
taken out of the box, they will not return them. Yeah.
yeah, and
So imagine that. So you wait, you go buy a generator and take it home, and then you're going to wait till the power goes out, and then you're going to start trying to assemble your generator in the damn dark, you
yep,
know, and you got to put it together, put the oil in it, the whole thing, all the stuff you got to do. And it's like, why would you put yourself through that? Well, I can't afford this generator. Well, can you afford to sit around the house for 2 weeks with no electricity? No
yeah.
heat. Like it's I don't understand the way people think, man.
But they got money for Starbucks every morning though.
Yeah, yeah, and they're cruises on Carnival, the Section 8 of the Seas.
Yeah.
Um, it's priorities, man. People just have their priorities in the wrong place.
That
Uh,
that you are totally correct. People they would rather have that brand new Escalade or whatever it
yep,
is than
yep,
that and a $1,500 a month car payment as opposed
yeah.
to drive a beater for a little while and take that $1,500 a month and put it into some kind of preparedness. Whether it be
Yeah.
an act like we're talking about preparedness stuff, or hell, put it in a bank and be more financially prepared.
Or paying, yeah, start building yourself a fund. Take that $1,500 a month, take $500 a month, and apply it to a credit card additional payment to pay one down, and stick $1,000 away into an emergency fund. You know,
Yeah,
I drive a 2015 truck that I bought brand new, and it's paid for. And I'm like, I don't need a new one. I don't
yeah,
see the reason for me to buy a new truck right now. Plus, I bought that one in 2015 for $65,000. The new version of that truck today is 120 grand.
yeah.
That was
Oh
just
yeah.
in 2015. That's less than 10 years. The price of the truck has nearly doubled.
Yeah,
You
and
know,
it's funny. I've got a 2015 truck too. It's paid for.
Yep.
I don't have to worry about it. And me being in the contracting trades, my truck is a tax write-off. It's a tool.
Oh
It's
yeah.
essentially what it
Yeah.
is. And my wife gets on me all the time. She's like, why don't you wash your truck? Why don't you clean it out a little bit more? I'm like, it's nothing more than that impact driver that I've got. I'm going to
That's
use
right.
it. I'm going to use it until it's wore out, and then I'm going to buy another one. So when that truck hits, 350, 400,000 miles and it's trash, I trade it in and I'll go get
Yep.
another used one or something.
Yeah.
So
Mine's got 230,000 on it right now, and it's still going strong. That's what I like about diesels, man. You can drive those things forever, if you take care of them. And I only run, and I've always only ran AMSOIL in it, so it's running great.
Oh yeah, and the truck before I had on this one, I ran it to like 350 some thousand.
Yeah.
Blew the rear main in it, and the transmission was on its last leg. And I sold it to one of my buddies, and he went through and redid it. And this has been 8 or 9 years ago. Man, he still drives that truck, and it looks freaking good. And I was like, I wished I still had that truck.
Yeah, we did that. I have an 04 F-250, and I sold it to my daughter's boyfriend's dad, and then we regretted selling it, and then he regretted buying it because it was just too expensive for him to drive. That 60 that was in there, and it had been bulletproof and everything. It was a great motor, and he said he was going to sell it, and I was like, well, we had a Ford Explorer too. We had a 2017 Ford Explorer, I think it was, and I was like, well, I'll tell you what, why don't I just trade you flat out? I'll give you that Explorer, and you can give me back the truck. He was like, okay. And so that because my wife wanted it back real bad, and so we traded her Explorer straight up for it. Got a 2017 Explorer for an 04 F-250, straight up trade. He got the better end of that deal, but we wanted the truck back. So,
oh yeah, that, and I tell you what, while we're on the diesels, the government has killed the stinking diesel engines. I mean, with all the emissions and all that crap,
like F2 Ford limits them at 54% of their actual rated capacity out of the factory. That's what you get because of all that emission crap and everything on there. I had mine deleted. Now I know that's you get in trouble in a lot of places in Florida. They don't give a crap, and I don't really go to the states that does give a crap. So I try to stay out of those. But I had mine deleted, and it made a world of difference in it.
Oh yeah, I mean, I had a Ford. I had a 1-ton Ford, and I loved that thing. We never did do anything with it. I ended up getting rid of it before we did all the delete and all that stuff. But man, it was a hoss of a truck. I loved it.
Oh yeah, gotta have a truck, man.
Yeah. Well, Chris, I tell you, the way I found out about you is one of my buddies told me to pick up your book, and I picked it up. And could not put the thing down. I ran in Barnes and Noble, and I was like, "Do they have it?" And I was looking around, they had it, and I was going home, and I was like, "I've got to get this." So I got it, and I read probably half that thing the first night I had it, and then finished it. Barnes and Noble didn't have any more of them. They're like, "We can order them." I'm like, "I don't want to wait for this crap." So I just went and bought a Kindle, and I could download them all on the Kindle. As soon as I got done with one, I'm like, "Let's load the other one up," and I've read all of them except for the last two, and like I told you, I've run out of time. I was like, I don't have any free time to read right now. So,
well, your business is feast or famine, man. You gotta feast when you can. So,
exactly, and I'll do it sometime. But no kidding, I used to fall asleep, and my dad had told me years ago. He's like, I've got to stop reading such thick books, and I'm like, what are you talking about, Dad? He said, I'm sitting there on the couch, and he said, the damn thing hits my nose when I fall asleep. He said, it hurts.
Sitting there propped up, and bang.
and it's funny, I've seen that man sit on the couch and halfway fall asleep, and that book would hit him in the nose, and he'd be like this, what happened? So, and the cool thing I like about your books, some of the books are just so overboard. This could never happen. That guy takes on 500 people, and there's no learning whatsoever in it. Yours, every book has to have some stuff that's not realistic about it, or it's like reading history. So, but yours have got stuff that you can actually learn, and it's got a lot of knowledge in there and facts in there that you just hadn't thrown together. Well, if I do this and this thing will work, in this book. In real life, a lot of that stuff is actually thought through and it's actually stuff that will really work.
Well, yeah, and the things like that in the books, when I put them in there, they're all legit things, and they'll all work. I just weave those facts, into the fiction story. Because when I wrote Going Home, I wrote that on a forum, and so people were reading it as I was posting it. I'd post a piece every couple days or so, and people would be reading it, and they'd be commenting, and they would ask questions about what would you use for this or how would you do that. And instead of just answering the question in the comments, I would stick that into the story. I just weave it into that story somehow, and so that kind of started me down that path, and I just sort of kept doing it. Like for the problems that people are going to have in this world, what are some of the solutions, and how can we find solutions to them? And so, like in 13, a lot of that stuff starts coming back around, solutions to problems, because they get to traveling around the state quite a bit, and they come across some real serious problems that they got to deal with. And but I like to call it faction, fact-based fiction. Weave those little useful nuggets throughout the story. And then not only is it entertaining to read, but there's also a little bit of education there too. So.
Yeah, exactly. And there's too many of those books. It's like MacGyver on steroids. I've got a 9-volt battery, and I've got a thing of fishing line, and I'm going to power the whole village with this 9-volt battery and some fishing line.
Yeah.
and people are reading it, and they're like, I need a bunch of fishing line and a bunch of 9-volt batteries when everything goes down, and I'll be fine. So
that guy did it. I read it in a book once.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah.
He powered half of Florida with that 9-volt battery.
Yeah.
And an EMP happened too while he was doing it, and it didn't hurt anything. So,
no, everything kept working. It all worked. Yep.
Oh yeah.
And then you get the guys like Rawls, where it's basically, if you don't achieve this level of preparedness, you're wasting your time. And it's a level of preparedness that nobody can achieve. Like the counts that comes off in some of the works that he's done, the numbers of things people had. It's just like, there's no way. There's just no way that people did this. But
yeah, and I've read a bunch of his books, and it's like he does get awful technical. It's this specific rifle that you need, this specific ammo, and this is what you need for all of it. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm the same way. It's like, unless these guys are just astronomically rich, there's no way that you could pull this off.
Yeah.
So
I try to keep mine pretty grounded in reality. Bad things happen to good people in my stories, all the time, and that's just part of life, because that's reality of it. The good guy doesn't always win.
Yeah, that, and there's gonna be problem solving, even with raw stuff. As much stuff as you've still got. There's going to be stuff that goes wrong. You crack into your 1,000,000 rounds of ammo that you've stored up. Something might have happened to half of it. So then you're kind of like, how are we going to solve this?
Yeah. It's just, I think just focusing on the details of the daily life too is a big piece of it. Instead of the always being these action-packed scenes where the good guys are always doing some kind of, like you said, MacGyver or Delta Farce, SEAL Team 6-pack or some shit. But the daily life, the daily chores of life, because that's where the lessons are. That's where you learn how to make do or improvise or come up with alternative things, and not just in the meat of the stories, all the action kind of scenes and stuff like that. I actually enjoy the peripheral of it. The daily life stuff is what I like looking at, and really focus on. I try to focus on, in the books. How they're meeting their daily needs and overcoming the trivial little things that come up every day. So
the stuff that's not sexy.
Yeah, the very unsexy stuff.
Yeah, and in an extended grid down situation, it's going to be a grind. Day-to-day life. You're not going to be running around, in a military vehicle shooting guys and stuff like that. It's going to be, it hadn't rained in a month, and our water catchment stuff is running super low. What are we going to do?
Well, too, just imagine that, a world like that where we go from, we walk out the door, jump in the truck, go be anywhere we want to be, and whatever, hour, 2 hours, whatever the drive may be, to a world to where you can only go as far as you can walk in a day, like that's it. That's why people were born and died in the same towns and never left them, because, back before modern society and transportation, all this stuff, it was difficult to go anywhere. you know, wagons
Exactly.
and horses and stuff. And well, wagons and horses don't really exist anymore. And now they're cars and trucks. But if something happened to them and they're not usable, then we're back to the soul train, you know?
Yeah.
And people don't think, all right, so let's look at second and third order effects of that. Now we're walking all the time. Most people aren't used to walking all the time. Most people don't have quality walking shoes. They might have one or two pairs of sneakers laying around or something, but those are going to wear out. If you're
Yeah.
always walking everywhere you go, you're going to wear them out. Something you don't even think
Yeah.
about today. Usually we end up trashing shoes because they get beat up, nasty looking, whatever. We want something nice looking on our feet, so we replace them. It's not because the sole wore out. You'll be wearing out the sole of your shoes in this world,
Yeah.
you know. So you got to think about that. Like, how are you going to have replacements, or what are you going to do, or do you have replacements? You know,
Yeah.
clothing and footwear today is designed for fashion, not for function. Most of it, and that's what most people own. You know, the clothes you buy in these little stores and crap, it's not going to stand up to hard living. You know,
Yeah.
and I think that's going to be a problem for a lot of folks. They're going to find out their shoes and their clothes aren't up to the task. You know, and that's going to be a big
Oh
problem,
yeah.
especially people, kids. You know, are you stocking up clothes? You know, 1, 2, 3 sizes ahead of where they are now, so that you have
Yep.
something to get them into. You know,
And
it's just
yeah, that whole clothes thing. I've got an 8-year-old and a almost 16-year-old, and we stopped in Academy Sports a couple years ago, and right in the front, Academy would do these flash sale things. They had long underwear for like 75 cents for a top and 75 cents for a bottom.
hell yeah.
I'm like, I told my wife, I went and grabbed the cart and I said, get what everybody wears right now. And I said, get 4 sizes, the next biggest one, because eventually my 8-year-old will catch up to the 16-year-old and you
Yep.
do the hand me down deal. We
Yep.
walked out of there with a shopping cart full of long underwear tops and bottoms for like $50. I was like, yeah, this is stupid. I was like, why wouldn't you buy that?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like when COVID was fixing to happen, the lockdown and all that stuff was about to happen. I'd gotten a heads up that was occurring, and I was in Rural King buying a bunch of feed and stuff like that. And I just went back to their gun department. They had a whole end cap full of 9mm, like 500 round buckets or something like that, I think it was. And I grabbed an empty shopping cart and filled the shopping cart with this 9mm.
Mhm.
And there's a guy looking at me, and he's like, "You know something I don't?" I'm like, "Well, if you ain't got a bunch of it at home, you might want to get some right now." And
Yeah.
but I walked out there with a full shopping cart of 9mm and a full shopping cart of feed. There's some crazy. They're having some crazy sales. Blazer, I'll never forget it. Blazer ammo, some crazy sale they're having on it, and I bought the hell out of it. I was like, I'll take all that. So,
Oh yeah, no doubt.
get it when it's there, you know.
Yeah, and then like the whole shoe thing. I mean, I'm a contractor. I can wear, and I wear Merrells almost exclusively
Yep.
for my work
Yep.
shoes. I can wear a pair of Merrells out in 6 to 8 months, and when
Yep.
LA police gear will put them on sale all the time.
Yeah.
And I order like 6 or 7 pairs at a time. My
Yeah.
wife's like, what's the deal? I was like, I got them for less than half price of regular price. And
Yeah.
so I've got boxes of Merrell sitting in the closet, ready to go whenever.
That's good, because shoes are going to become a big thing. Shoes and socks, man. People don't think about it. You know, it's going to be a big deal. You go to like homeless shelters and ask what's the number one request. It's usually socks.
Yeah.
So stock up on your socks too.
Oh yeah. And I did when Gander Mountain was still in business before they
Oh yeah.
sold and all that. Gander Mountain would price match anybody online. And
Yep.
so we would find prices online. Me and my father-in-law were looking online one day, and he's like, I'd really like to have a Mosin Nagant. And I was like, okay. I was like, let's find a price on one. We found those things for like $90 at Classic Firearms.
Yeah.
I called Gander Mountain, and they were like $200 at Gander. And I was like, will you price match it? And the manager's like, yeah, I guess I will. We went in and bought a whole freaking crate of them at once.
Really? Wow.
The manager's like, you're kind of an ass on this. And I was like, dude, you told me to do it.
Well, there you go. Hell yeah. I remember
Yeah,
back in the day, there was a drugstore in the little town of Apopka where I was growing up. And it was one that still had the little diner inside of it, kind of a drugstore like that. But I also sold guns and stuff. And they had Mosin Nagants in there. And if you bought the spam can of ammo, they gave you the rifle. That was
Roses. Were roses down in Florida? like the
I don't know
little
if they were, but I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, back
I
in the
don't think
day,
they're
and
down here.
I was quite a bit younger before I got into guns. I was still young, but I remember Roses would have like 55-gallon drums of SKSs, just
Yeah.
these
Yeah.
rifles just stuffed in there for like
Yeah.
$70 or less than
Yep.
that. And I'm like,
Yep. Yeah, there was like a Woolworth used to do it too, and they would have a barrels,
yep,
and there'd be '03 Springfields, Nagants, all that damn Japanese Noriscas are in there. Sometimes you'd find Garans and carbines, in the mix,
yeah,
like you said, SKSs and those things. And like you said, yeah, like $70-80 you could buy an SKS back in the day,
yeah.
and now they're
And now,
$600.
yeah, and I feel bad. I had a couple nice SKSs and a couple nice AKs, and I was like, I don't ever shoot these things. I would rather have the money and put them in ARs. And I sold those things, and I'm like, I
Oh,
kicked myself. I'm like, I wished I still had them.
yeah,
So because I had next to nothing. With them.
I had an Egyptian Mahdi uh, that I paid like $300 for. I'll never forget that. Brand new, $300 AK, and I sold that one. And then I've got a nice Norinco now, good old school pre band Norinco. No
Yeah.
no thumb hole stock on it, so I got a nice one. But yeah, you kick yourself. Those things you buy years ago, and money gets a little bit tight, and it's like, well, I know I can sell this and get some money, so you sell guns off, and then later you're like, man, I wish I hadn't done that. I wish I had that one back.
Oh yeah, and I've done that before, and then I've ended up buying some guns back from people before. I'm like, I'll tell them, I'm like, I wish I'd have never sold that gun. Can I buy it back? And they're like, yeah,
Yeah,
sure. So,
yeah. Well, that's nice
I,
when that happens. That's good.
oh yeah, and it's always been some of my buddies that's done it for me, and I didn't mind asking them. They're like, yeah, I'll sell it back to you.
There you
So
go.
I remember
There you
one
go.
of one of the first guns I ever saved my money and bought was a Browning Gold shotgun. It was
Oh yeah,
their 3.5-inch model, all
yeah,
solid black with the gold trigger and gold inlay.
oh
That
yeah.
man, I bought that thing I think when I was 19 years old, and I'm 45 now. I bought it, and that gun was darn near $1,000 back then.
Oh
It was
yeah.
an expensive gun, and if I look at gun shows, I'm like, I want the exact same gun, but with the walnut stock.
Mm-hmm.
And mine's solid black. And I told my brother, I'm like, if you ever find one of those at a gun show, buy it for me, and I will pay you for it. I was like, I want one, something awful.
Yeah.
So,
Yep. You do regret those things when you have to part ways with them later. Never at the moment so much, but later you always regret it.
oh
So
yeah,
I try not to sell any guns these days.
I try not to. I sold. Now I traded a boy a 38, old is a Smith and Wesson 38. He wanted one bad, and he had a bunch of concertina wire. So we traded a whole truckload of concertina wire for that. And I was like, okay, this works.
Yeah, that's not a bad trade. That's good. I'd take that one too for concertina wire. Hell yeah.
Until I had to explain it to my wife, and she was like, "Why in the hell do you have all this?" And I'm like, "Don't worry."
When we need it, you'll know why. It'll be obvious.
Well, it was funny. She told me, she said, if I come home one day and that stuff's strung out all across the front yard, she's like, we're going to have problems. And I looked at her and I go, you're damn right, we got problems.
Yeah. If it's strung out over the yard, we definitely got problems. That's why it's strung out over the yard.
And then I explained to her, she was like, she thought that I was, like, oh yeah, we would have a problem. I would never do that. And then I explained to her the problems we would have, and it wasn't her being mad at me.
No, that would be the least of the problems.
Yeah.
That would be. She'd be telling you to get out there and put more of it up.
Yeah, exactly. But like now one gun, my dad's old 30-30. It's an old Glenfield Marlin 30-30. He bought that gun. Has got to be, I want to say it's at least probably 60 years old. I've got it. Love that gun. That's the first gun I went deer hunting with. And I found another one that matched it at a gun show. And I bought that thing. I bought that thing. So I've got two of those. And I'm like, I'm going to keep these things forever.
Yeah. Yeah. The ones with sentimental value like that are always the best ones.
Oh yeah. And the stock needs to be redone on it and everything like that. But I'm like, I'm just going to keep it the way it is, because that's the way I remember the gun.
Yeah.
So,
Yep.
So I guess we'll shift gears. What do you think about what happened yesterday with all the cell phone and all that kind of crap?
Well, they've been saying that China's going to be, there's going to be a cyber attack. There's going to be a cyber attack, and I think stuff like what we saw yesterday is just probing attacks. They're seeing what they can do, and especially because, like we were talking before we came on here about it, like, and I know, and you had the same situation. Like, my phone worked, my wife's did not,
Yeah.
and then your phone worked, your wife's did not.
It might be a
And
gender thing. The
might
women
be a
screwed
gender
their phone.
thing.
The women
Maybe they
screwed their
did.
phones up.
But mine had hers, Mel's had the same thing, had an SOS thing on the screen. Mine was fine. Mine would make calls, I could text, I could do everything. She could not. And so that means it was device specific, which means it was probably people that somehow got some malware or a backdoor loaded into their phones. And so that whoever did this was just running a test to see how many phones it would affect. I'm guessing here, okay? Because it didn't take the entire network down. I mean, if I'm standing right beside somebody and my phone works and theirs doesn't, that means it's not the network necessarily. That means it's something to the device probably. And I would think the only way you do that is you had some malware that you could trigger by, sending a signal out through the towers that would do whatever it was doing. And that's the only thing I can guess, but we're fixing to replace my wife's phone partly for that reason. Because we also got new numbers and new phones and everything here recently. We had to change our phone numbers and everything. So I'm curious about what exactly it was, but
Yeah.
I think it's just a probing attack, just getting ready to see what they can do so that whenever they do whatever it is they're going to do, they'll get closer to their desired result, whatever that may be.
Yeah. And then, of course, everybody threw out the solar flares, that it was solar flares that caused it. But from what I understand, if it was an actual solar flare, it would have affected different things also, and not just certain people's cell phones.
Exactly. And I mean, it was next class. It was like a 6.23 or something like that. And so GPS should have been jacked up and stuff like that potentially, but it wouldn't have, I don't think it would have affected the cell phones in the manner it did if that was the case. I think it would have been more of an all or nothing kind of a deal. And since, like I said, some were and some weren't, I'm thinking it was a directed attack is my take on it.
And last night we were on with Brian and Susan from S&B Homestead Radio, and Brian and Susan are experts on ham stuff, and we talked just a little bit on it. Brian told me that none of the ham stuff was really messed up. And usually when you've got some kind of solar flare and, the radio frequencies are really dependent on the sun cycle.
Oh, yeah.
So so if the sun's doing some crazy stuff, it would screw up your radio propagation.
Yes,
he said he was talking fine on he was talking 2 meter to one of his friends because his phone wasn't working. So that kind of shows to me that it wasn't a solar flare. And I kind of agree it was some kind of backdoor probing issue. And then, of course, a lot of people are coming out. I used to work for Cisco, and Cisco handles a bunch of AT&T stuff, and somebody could have messed some little circuit up, and it would cause all this stuff. And I'm like, I don't really know.
Well, they're never going to tell you the truth. And here's the thing: they tell us there was a solar flare. Was there? We live in a time right now where you can't believe anything you read unless you see it with your own eyes. Because we've got the Ministry of Truth, right? We have the arbiters of what is truth and what is fact, and that changes daily, apparently. And you can't. And now facts can be wrong. Actual facts can. So they've got to give you what they want you to know and believe. And so we literally live in a time where, and we can't even verify the authenticity of something or if it's true or not anymore, because you're relying on big tech to do that. And we know that they're in bed with the feds. So we literally live in a time where we don't know what's real and what's not. I don't think that the full weight of that has hit people yet, but when it does, it's going to be a bit of an eye opener. Because you can do a Google search. Google's AI has been proven to be, biased as hell. So we're living in a fantasy world at this point.
Yeah. Well, an old guy told me one time years ago, he said, don't believe anything you hear and only half of what you see.
That's right.
And realistically, if you think about that now, I've been watching a lot of stuff on YouTube as far as content creation and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
They're showing people are making YouTube videos with AI, and they can
Yep.
take, if they've got enough voice stuff, they can take your image and do AI stuff with it, and it's hard to tell the difference on it unless you
Oh, yeah.
really know. So that guy was kind of telling the future. Only believe half of what you see.
Well, I've been saying for several years now that we're approaching the point, and we're here now. And this is the scary thought to me with this AI stuff and these deep fake videos, essentially, where they can have you doing and saying whatever. Imagine that the feds have that capability, and better than anything that we're probably seeing on the open market. And
Yeah,
not only that, but they have every phone call you've ever made, every text message, every email you sent, all this stuff. They've got it all bottled up and stored away.
yeah,
So that to the point now that they can manufacture evidence if they choose to. Have you
yeah,
on video doing and saying whatever it is they want to accuse you of, and you'll
yeah,
have zero way to refute that.
yeah.
I mean, that is terrifying.
Exactly. That, and I mean, they can pin you down and get you and do whatever they want to. Then.
They can have you on videos, like I said, doing and saying whatever they want you to do and say. Be your voice. All the
Yeah,
experts will come in. Yep, we ran the test. That's his voice. Yep, sure is.
yeah. And
So
then of course the experts aren't on your side anyway. So
exactly. And like I said, the arbiters of truth. Now, if you're guilty of wrong, then as we've seen, you don't deserve to be alive in their eyes. You deserve to be unpersoned. And with this push towards digital currencies and digital IDs and all this crap, that's why they want that, because they don't care if you're like you're Alex Jones with his huge following. With the couple keystrokes, they can essentially make you disappear. You would have no
yeah,
access to the internet. You'd have no way to travel. You'd have no way to purchase anything. You'd have no way to do anything. They won't care about you then, because then you're just out there alone screaming into the wilderness by yourself and no one's hearing you.
yeah,
And that's all it will take for them to do that to you. I mean, kill your cell phone. They can kill everything. Push of a button. You're basically just wandering the streets now. You are a nobody. You are not a person.
yeah.
You know?
Oh yeah. And it is scary to think of what they can actually do. I mean, they can,
Yeah.
like you said, kill your internet, kill your phone, kill your power to your house. They can come out and
They'll
turn
be
your
able to
water
kill your
off.
vehicle. What
Yeah,
is it, 2025? I think it is next year. Every vehicle has to have a kill switch built into it in manufacturing.
yeah,
So they'll be able to shut your vehicle. Teslas, they can already do it, but they'd be able to shut your vehicle off. I mean, turn off the way you pay, kill the power to your house if they want to, turn off your internet, kill your cell phone.
yeah,
You can't even reach out to anybody unless you can walk to them. I mean, think about that. Really think about it for a second, what that could do to you. And they could pick the most inopportune time. You could be on a cross-country road trip, and crossing Texas, let's just say, and they kill everything out there in the middle of nowhere.
and then you're
And
toast.
and then you're just sitting there. And,
Yeah,
you can't call AAA. You can't do anything.
yeah.
Don't have cash. You're gonna. What do? You can't pay for nothing. It's, to me, that's a terrifying thought.
Oh yeah, and then think about it too. Just the other stuff that say you're married and you've got two kids, and the government shuts your stuff off, and then the wife is like, "I'm not living with this. This is not going to work for me." She divorces you, and then your kids
Yeah.
are like, "Dad, I can't hang around you because they're going to shut my phone off, my whole future."
Yep.
You're essentially 100% on your own. Your family wants nothing to do with you.
Yep.
You're ostracized to the max then.
Well, yeah, because that the social credit score, because that's coming here. I mean, it's coming. It might be resisted for a little while, but it's coming, and that's why they want that is because that'll be the leverage.
Yeah.
Well, they're one of those people, and if you hang around those people, it affects your social credit score, and brings down what you're allowed to do and cuts out
Yeah.
your opportunity. So you're right; people aren't going to want to hang out with you.
Yeah.
The only advantage that you would have at that point, though, is you'd be able to operate entirely outside of the system,
Yeah.
but you better have a way of doing that before you need to.
Yeah.
Is
Don't
all I'll say.
don't try to get it on the fly for sure.
Yeah, you're gonna have to build some systems in place that would allow you to do so. But then think about it. Now you're moving around without a phone. You're not being tracked and all that stuff. But
It'd be
facial
kind of
recognition.
free.
Well, but then facial recognition and cameras is where they get you, because
Free.
Britain's got more cameras than people.
Yeah.
I heard a number the other day that China has over 200 million cameras in the country.
Gee,
Monitoring their people. 200 million.
that's crazy.
Yeah. And when you see all the plate readers that are on police cars and mounted on the side of the roads. Now they even put them on garbage trucks and stuff.
Yeah.
So that when they're, any city, county vehicle, they put these plate readers on. So when they're running around, if they pass a stolen car, then they know it immediately. And that sounds like a good thing, but it's reading every plate it rides by,
Yeah.
We have toll booths here in Florida that they'll do pay by plate, but why does it take a picture of the front of my vehicle? Why does it take a picture right through the windshield? Because it wants to see who's driving for facial recognition. So anytime I go through a toll booth in Florida, I put my sun visor down because my truck's so high that when I do that, they can't see my face. So, I try to fight back at every opportunity. Anywhere I can push back or resist, I do it. Just because, they might over time be able to compel me into some of the stuff they want, but I'm going to get this kicking and screaming all the way.
And
I'm not going to make it easy.
Yeah, and with the cameras, I think they do it and kind of mainstream it a little bit. Like everybody that I know has some kind of camera system on their house.
Mm-hmm.
So as long as you can open it up and make it mainstream, it's like, you get used to having a camera at your house, and then you don't think anything about it when there's all these other cameras out there. It's like that's the normal.
Well, and they talk up the positives of it when it helps find somebody that's missing or works in a big case, of a horrific nature. But then we got to look at the other side of the coin. To half the country, them using that same technology to jail all these people from the Capitol event. That's the same technology they use. They tracked phones. They put up a geofence. Anybody inside of that fence was a suspect.
Yeah,
you were a suspect in a crime just because you were in a place. All right, now. Mm-hmm. See, we're treading on touchy ground now, and then the camera systems that they had, same thing, running facial recognition, picking people out of the crowd. So it's teach. There's some lessons here, folks. Number one, in your little bag that you carry around every day or that goes everywhere you go, you better have a balaclava in there. You better have some gloves in there and some sunglasses, because if something does start to get weird where you are, like an event like that or a protest or something, or even the feds start becoming even more heavy-handed in the way they approach things, there's going to be times where you're going to be like, I should cover up and pull the balaclava on, put on the shades, put your gloves on, because you don't want to be leaving fingerprints on stuff possibly either. So get rid of the facial recognition thing by, putting a hood over your face and sunglasses. Antifa does it for a reason. Let's look at what the opposition is doing. They've done it from day one. We need to catch up to that,
Oh, yeah.
Too many people were at the Capitol exposed, and they should not have done that. And it's sad to say that we have to do that. Yes, I agree. But we can't bend reality to our will. We have to, our will has to match reality. So,
yeah. And I heard talking about the Capitol deal, I heard about a couple people that were up there for work, like away from there. But then they got roped in, and like the 3-letter agencies came and visited them. They're like, why were you there? And they had to do jump through all kinds of hoops to be like, I work for this company. I was on the other side of town in a board meeting, but you're giving me 9 kinds of grief about it when I was actually up there working and not doing anything stupid. So
I've got a book project I'm working on that works on that very principle right there.
Really?
From that exact thing.
Oh, yeah.
Somebody that was in DC but not involved, and the feds won't leave him alone, and they start pressuring him because he's basically like, I'm done talking to you guys because I got nothing to say. I wasn't there. I was working, and here's my proof. And then that's not good enough for them. And just because of the fact that he won't bend the knee to him, to authority, that's the greatest offense you can make is to say no or to not take the knee. And he won't. And so they put more pressure on him. And finally he decides, I'm not going to play your game. You guys are going to play my game. Yeah. And they figure out they should have just left the guy alone. So this one's more of kind of a tech thriller sort of a thing. There's a lot of heavy tech in it. And the reason I'm doing it is I'm pulling the curtain back on the capabilities that the feds have, the things that they can actually do. I don't think most people really realize it. And in this book, we demonstrate all that. Again, in fact-based fiction. Every piece of tech that's going to be used in this story is real. All of it is. And it'll be laid out in a way that people will be able to Google it and figure it out. But it's pretty terrifying, honestly, what they can do now that we know about. This is what we know about.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to say. just the stuff we know about, the stuff that we don't know about would really probably just make your mind explode if you knew what exactly they could do.
Yeah, that shit. That would scare the paint off the fence. If people really knew what they're capable of. And normalcy bias is a deadly thing, and a lot of people think, well, at heart, our government really has our best interest in mind. No, at heart, the government has its best interest in mind, and that's it. That's the only interest it has. Government exists to expand government. That's it. Yeah. It's the blob. That's all it's for.
It's continuity of government, not continuity of us.
Yeah, continuity of government, not the continuity. And then isn't the government of and by and for the people? But we're always left. There's no spots in the lifeboat for us.
Yeah,
exactly. Not that I'd want one. I wouldn't want one in their lifeboat. I'll take my chances with one of the little donut thingies. I'll stick my arm through that and float on that before I'd get in their lifeboat.
I would be right there with you. I'll take my donut and go home.
Yeah. I'll take this life ring. I'll float on this or this piece of a pallet right here. Y'all can have that lifeboat. I'm not getting in there. That thing comes with way too many attachments, and I'm not taking it.
Yeah, and I'm the type of person. I mean, I'm 45 years old. I know right from wrong. I know what to do and what not to do. Yeah. I just want to be. I want to be left alone. I want to go to work, do my job, and just nobody tell me what to do. If I want to dip and smoke and drink and do whatever I want to, I know the effects of it. Yep. Leave me alone. Let me do it.
Yep. So, yeah, there's a class of there's two classes of people in this country essentially, and it's those like you just said that just want to be left alone. I'm not going to bother you if you don't bother me.
Yeah.
And then there's the class, and there's a bunch of people that are on the right that are in this class also, and it's I've got to make sure everybody's living according to the rules that I want. I want people to live the way I want them to live, and there's those two classes. You either want to just be left alone or you want to control what other people are doing. And that's not left or right, because there's plenty of people on the right that do the same thing. And I always ask them, I'm like, I said, do you believe in individual liberty? And they're like, well, absolutely I do. I'm like, well, then if you believe in individual liberty, you shouldn't have an opinion on how they're living their life. As long as what they're doing does not impact your life or your ability to live your life, you shouldn't have anything to say about it whatsoever.
Yeah.
And it's just a fact, because I don't care what somebody else does. If you want to date a man dressed like a woman, I don't care. I don't care. Do you knock yourself out? Don't come tell me that I have to participate in your fantasy.
Yeah.
In order for your reality, I don't give a crap about your reality. You cannot compel one to perform at the behest of another. And that's what this current thing is with all this shit going on. I'm trying not to say all the trigger words that'll screw your channel up. But trying to force others to speak in a certain manner or use words, you can't tell me what I got to do. Your rights are not greater than mine. And if I'm being told that I have to speak to you in the manner you demand, that makes me a second-class citizen to you.
Yeah.
I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that. I'm also not going to be offensive and try to give them a bunch of crap, but I'm also not going to call you whatever. If you're a dude, hey dude, and if you want to get mad, that's on you. That ain't on me. That's on you,
Oh yeah.
Because that's your fantasy, and I'm not playing ball with you. I'm not in your game, So
I had that happen.
Screaming and hollering at me.
Yeah, the whole dude thing, dressed like a woman. I had that happen at one of the stores I went into. The guy was checking me out, and he was clearly dressed like a chick, but had a beard. And he gave me my change, and I said, "Thank you, sir." And he goes, "Sir?" And I said, "Yeah." He goes, "I'm not a sir." And I was like, "You sure look like one." He goes, "I'm not a sir." And I looked at him and I said, "You got something between your legs?" And he goes, "Yeah." And I said, "Then you're a dude." And he gave him my change and I walked out. So
yeah, whatever. It'll be interesting to see what takes the place of this current iteration of idiocy. Because this is about to burn itself out. They're kind of close to the end of the candle on this one. So it'll be interesting to see what the next thing is that becomes the necessary whatever for them. And it's crazy the shit they latch onto. Like this one, it's such a small percentage of population. But they're trying to destroy the moral foundation is what it is. You have an immoral people, it's easy to get them to do immoral things than it is with immoral people. So that's what it's about.
And I've always said, going back to that, if my neighbor is the exact opposite of what I believe in, totally exact opposite,
Yeah.
I'm fine. I will talk to him, be polite to
Yeah.
him, as long as that stuff does not cross onto my fence. When you
That's
try
it.
to push it down my throat, that's when we have a problem. So
When you start trying to compel another, that's the whole thing. If your worldview means that others have to be forced into alignment with it, then your worldview is wrong. I mean, you're everything you profess to hate at that point. These people.
yeah,
I mean, I've got my worldview, and I don't care if anybody else agrees with it. I've got my own opinion, but I'm not trying to force anybody else to believe anything I have to say, or participate in anything I have to say. These are my opinions, and I'll talk about them, but I don't demand deference, and that's what these people are doing. So, like I said, the next iteration is going to be interesting.
And some of it is you've got to, some of the logic that they want you to use, you've got to kind of do the mental jujitsu on them and turn it on them. Like one of my friends, she called me. This has been like a year ago. She said her daughter's 16. She's like she got kicked out of school for a couple of days because this one of the girls, she made fun of her because she was one of these furries. Said she was a cat. And my friend's daughter is like, I'm not playing this stupid game, and like made fun of her. So the principal kicked her out of school for a couple of days. And I said, what your daughter needs to do is when she goes back to school, when that girl comes up and purrs to her, I said, your daughter needs to just kick the shit out of her and claim that she's a donkey. and my friend's like, why? I was like, because donkeys kick the shit out of animals. And I said, you've got to play their game, because she can't get in trouble because she's doing what a donkey does naturally.
Yeah.
And she's like, you're going to get my daughter kicked out of school. And I'm like, you've got to turn the logic on them.
That or identify as a pit bull. And that's why I stomped her ass when she came up and meowed at me. Yeah.
And just make it so ludicrous that they have to agree with you to keep up the farce that they've got going.
That or turn around and just start sneezing all over her, just purposefully, just like sneezing, spitting all over, and be like, I'm so allergic to cats. Just keep doing it till they move away.
Yeah. That's a hairball.
It isn't it amazing that, and that's what I was just saying. So they suspended her probably for bullying, but mainly because she wouldn't participate in somebody else's fantasy. And we're enabling these lunatics with these stupid little fantasies. And a lot of people are doing it just for the shits and giggles, because some of these kids think it's hilarious,
Yeah.
I know that with my mindset, if I was a teenager in this day, I would be having a blast with this crap. I mean, teachers, I'd be giving teachers hell, but I'd be doing it out of the sheer entertainment value, not because I believed in any of it. But now anything that you believe is fact, and facts are wrong. Facts are, it's 1984, man. It's newspeak. So
yeah, exactly. Well, Chris, we're coming up close to an hour. We'll kind of let's talk about the festival a little bit.
Yeah,
you're gonna be at our festival. You're gonna have books, merchandise, all that good stuff.
Yeah, we'll have swag and books and everything there, and yeah, for sure, we'll give a talk. I'll feel people out. I'm kind of open as to what we want to talk about. I mean, if we might do just like an open Q&A and let the crowd, because I always want to make sure people get the answers to the questions they have, or hear what they want to hear about. And so we'll kind of be pretty flexible on that end. Whatever everybody wants to talk about, that's where we'll go.
I think a cool Q&A would be good. We did a Q&A with one of our speakers last time, and it turned out awesome. And I like the Q&A and just kind of winging it. I like winging stuff.
That's me, man. I'm always, like I said, I'm always fly by the seat of my pants. I'm not much for planning and organizing. Like, my manager does all this planning for me now, and without her, none of this planning would happen. Because I'm always like, I'll set something up or something. I don't put it on a calendar or nothing, because I'm like, I'll remember. The hell I will. And so now I've got all these calendars and all this stuff that's on it, and I'm, so I'm getting more organized. But yeah, it's been an interesting challenge. So
my calendar's right here. I write it on my hand.
Yeah, I mean, now it goes on the phone, and I'll give it that. It is hitting my phone nowadays, so I at least know and get reminders. I was pretty notorious about, absent-mindedness. It's not like I don't have much going on either. That's the thing. I'm pretty busy all the time. So, it was a necessary modification. So I'm looking forward to being up there though. We're gonna go see Tactical Rifleman that week. But before there, we're gonna be over in Katie's hanging out with Carl, and so we're looking forward to that. And then we'll be down to see you guys, and then we gotta. I gotta go down to Nashville. We're gonna be on the Today in Nashville show.
Yeah, I'd heard that y'all were going to be on a couple shows in Nashville and stuff like that.
So we're going to do that too while we're in town, and then come home for a little bit, and then we got to be up in the SRF in April. So we'll be there too.
Yeah, because SRF is the weekend after Easter.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I'll be down there at SRF also. So.
Cool, man. That'll be good. That'll be real good. We need to get you to come down to Mountain Readiness in May.
Well, T told me that there's a ticket waiting for me. So
good deal.
If everything works, I will be there.
Cool.
So,
awesome, man. Awesome.
I plan on it. But yeah, guys, we'll kind of wrap everything up. Chris, I appreciate you talking to us today. And guys, everybody, the website is KentuckySustainableLiving.com. You can get your tickets. Your tickets include everything for the weekend to see all the speakers, all the demonstrators, and the whole vendor area. We've got tons of vendors. Everything. John Deere is going to be there with their tractors, implements. We've got lithium battery companies will be there. People that make soap. We've got custom knife makers, tactical gear, medical supplies. Everything that you need, anything from homesteading to preparedness is going to be there. I think we've got right now, at the time we're recording this, about 60 vendors that'll be there. So,
wow, man, that's nice. Awesome.
So it's going to be a good show. That, and also Saturday night, we have a charity dinner for Vets for Child Rescue. So we'll do that. If you buy your tickets on the website, you're going to get to have dinner with all the speakers and demonstrators. Get to sit and eat dinner with them, ask them a few questions, stuff like that, bid on some awesome auction items that we're getting right now. But check it out, and I appreciate it. And Chris, I appreciate you coming on today.
Thanks for having me, man.
And tell everybody where they can find you, your website.
Oh, I'm like horse shit. I'm everywhere, man. You just look up Angry American, you spell it the right way, and with the E, and you'll find me. I'm on all the social media platforms. AngryAmerican.com is the website. We do our podcast Wednesday night, 8 p.m. They go out live on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Rumble, and then we rip the audio and can that for a podcast as well. So you can download it on any of the podcast platforms. You can get it there. So yeah, that's pretty much what we're up to. That and running around, got a lot of travel this year. We're trying to get out and see more people this year. So
that's awesome. I think that's really good. All right, Chris, I appreciate it, and we will talk to y'all later.
Yeah, man. I'll see you later, Jason. Appreciate you, brother.
All right. Thanks.